not-for-profit organization, and we're investing in large-scale science and innovation projects, all aimed at growing Canada's plant-based food, feed, and ingredient sector. So our funding is derived from the Government of Canada, the Department of Innovation, Science and Economic Development, through a program called the Innovation Supercluster Initiative. There's 5 such organizations aimed at growing different sectors of the Canadian economy. And so right now, today, we're supporting about 30 large-scale science and innovation projects with a total investment portfolio of about $430 million. And we invest in everything from advanced breeding technologies to improve the genetics of crops, to digitization in agriculture and looking at sustainable farming systems. And a large portion of our investment portfolio is related to the development of new and novel plant-based ingredients and new and novel plant-based foods, which I think is a great backdrop to the conversation we want to have today. My answer is going to focus on the development of technologies and pushing forward in innovation. And when I think of what I've learned working in the agriculture sector for my entire career, and that includes growing up on a farm, I know nothing else other than agriculture and food production. A few things would jump to mind for me. The first is looking at collaboration around sustainable farming systems. So Saskatchewan and Western Canada is known globally for the development and implementation of what we would call zero tillage and minimum tillage farming systems. So that's adapting crop production here in Western Canada with minimal soil disturbance. And that really is something that has been a game changer for us in agriculture in Western Canada. And now in many arid and semi-arid climates around the world, that technology is being adopted. To me, I'm often reminded of a saying, and it's because I work in agriculture, that despite all of our technological advancements on the globe, we owe our existence to 6 inches of topsoil and the fact that it rains. So anything that we can do to help protect that topsoil and sustainable farming systems like we have developed here in Western Canada is just such a critical piece to that. I think in addition to this idea of minimum disturbance tillage or zero tillage, areas around genetics and breeding. So Canada has got some really excellent technologies and companies and private and public sector researchers looking at advanced breeding technologies to improve not only input traits that producers need, like weed control or drought tolerance or pest control, but also output traits in terms of improving the nutritional composition of crops. And I think there's a lot that we can do, collaborative innovation around this area of genetics and plant breeding as well. I did spend some time with the government of Saskatchewan managing the irrigation file for the province. You know, water is one of the most important resources on a global basis when we're thinking about sustainable farming systems. We've got the development of new and novel technologies happening in Canada and the building out of irrigation infrastructure. I think as we look at the global demand for food over the course of the next, pick a time frame, 10, 15, 20 years, the development of sustainable irrigation systems is going to be critical to the long-term needs of food production. I think in addition to those things, a few more that I might touch on around crop protection, chemistry and biologicals. I am a firm supporter of conventional agriculture. That is the utilization of, sustainable farming systems, but also chemical control means for pests and synthetic fertilizer to supplement and increase yield. I'm a true believer that on a global basis, we need not only regenerative and sustainable agriculture production systems, but also the utilization of conventional tools like herbicides, pesticides, insecticides, seed treatment, and chemical fertilizer. We're getting far better in Canada about the utilization of those products in an environmentally sustainable and in a manner that is safe for not only the applicator, but also the consumer at the end. And we've come a long way in Canada with understanding of those chemical and synthetic fertilizer technologies. There's a lot of opportunity for us to share there. Really understanding of talent and skills. I think, all of this doesn't happen without good collaboration at the human level and this idea of working together collaboratively on these issues. I think a couple of things. One could be around collaborative innovation, collaborative research and development. So we have a number of organizations that are members of Protein Industries Canada that are international. And so, at the end of the day, Canada will always be a net exporter of food. We're one of 5 jurisdictions globally that's a net exporter of food. We've got I think the second or third highest per capita arable land in the world. So we will always be a net exporter of food. And so anything that we can do to grow and develop new markets for our products, while at the same time helping countries around the world with food security issues, I think is really of interest to us. And I think there is some learning that we could provide and help with around this area of collaborative research and development. So all of the projects that we fund and support at Protein Industries Canada is a combination of both a small and medium-sized enterprise, often a larger company, and most often academic institutions. So what we've learned about how to build collaborative research and development projects around the areas of sustainable farming systems or food ingredient manufacturing and novel food production, I think are areas that we could certainly explore. Maybe what I'll do is just touch on what I see as the underlying trends that are leading to the growth in plant-based foods, and then talk a little bit about it from that angle. And I think first and foremost, what we see is an overall global need for increased protein and increased food consumption on a worldwide basis. And I say this because population is going to continue to increase until at least 2050. I know there is a lot of talk recently about peak population, but the reality is over the next 30 years, population on the globe is going to continue to increase. And inherent in that is a requirement for more food. The other thing that's happening is more and more people are moving from up in socioeconomic status. And it has been proven time and time again that as that happens, people consume more calories, but they also consume more calories from protein. So it's really important and incumbent upon us to think about how we're servicing those needs of a growing population and people with more disposable income. So in addition to those mega trends, which is global population growth and more people moving into this area of higher socioeconomic status, a few things in addition are underpinning the growth of plant-based foods on a global basis. One of that being environment. If we want to satisfy the global need for food production and increase protein, we have to think about the overall balance of plant-based protein versus animal-based protein because of the environmental impacts of animal agriculture. Now, again, I am a huge supporter of animal agriculture in a sustainable manner. I think it is really important from a holistic agriculture perspective that we have both plant and animal agriculture coexisting in ecosystems. So please don't take my comments as being negative against animal agriculture. We just really need to think about servicing the global need for protein from an environmentally sustainable perspective. I think in addition to that, we're seeing consumers think more and more about their own human health impacts of the foods that they're eating. That leads more and more people to choose plant-based foods from a health perspective and a diet perspective, thinking about consumptions of different kinds of fat and different amino acid balance and protein. I think the third is around this idea of convenience. People are eating differently today than they were 10 or 15 years ago. People are consuming more convenience foods and are sitting down to prepare less meals than they would have had even 5, 10, and 15 years ago. So the notion of people eating differently really lends itself to the growth of plant-based foods from a convenience perspective as well. And maybe the third or fourth area I would touch on is this idea of animal welfare. A lot of consumers on a global basis are making different choices about the foods that they're eating because of animal welfare issues. And so, I think if we were to pick apart any of those areas, overall population growth, higher socioeconomic status, and then this idea of environment, human health, convenience, animal welfare, those are all areas that we need to think about as influencing food production on a global basis and right down to regional basis, whether that be in Africa or whether that be in Canada. Collaborative research, Canadian companies, Canadian academic institutions working directly with institutes, organizations, academic institutions in Africa on a collaborative innovation piece. And I say that because Canada is not a low-cost supplier of food on a global basis. Now, that does not mean to say that food companies in Africa could not participate, but it is to say that the majority of the high value ingredients and food products that we're exporting today are destined for markets closer to home. We've got the fortune of being north of a $330 million consumer base in the United States, and the companies that are producing high value ingredients and food products have very good strategic alliances with companies there, and they will be motivated to satisfy that very large market. Again, that doesn't mean to say that Africa isn't an important market from a global population base, but I think we need to be realistic about what the true opportunity is between Canadian organizations, companies, and organizations and similar type institutions in Africa. And to me, it would lie more in collaboration around innovation. And I think that goes both ways. I'm not here to suggest that Canada has all the answers to Africa in terms of sustainable agriculture production or any of that. I think there's a real opportunity for us in Canada to learn more about sustainable farming systems and think more about our food systems. And we can certainly learn from food systems and organizations in Africa. It really lies in collaboration around innovation, maybe talent exchange, and I do view that as a two-way street. Yeah, I think it could be both ways, but my organization, as an example, doesn't really do that work. I mean, I think we're highly interested in talent exchanges in areas related to food and ingredient processing. I think the best opportunity is through academic institutions. And I've worked and went to the University of Saskatchewan, the College of Agriculture and Bioresources there, and I've worked with a number of professors who I know over the course of their careers have spent time in Africa doing work related to sustainable farming systems and food production and food processing. I think there's a real opportunity for more of those types of exchanges. I think personally, I'd be happy to make any connections that might be warranted, but I really believe it's probably best suited through federal government development agencies and academic institutions and colleges of agriculture across Canada. If you just search Protein Industries Canada in a search function like Google, we will come up, and we try to provide a really good line of sight into the innovations that we have supported around things like advanced breeding technologies, sustainable farming systems, digitization of agriculture, ingredient processing, the development of novel foods. If people are interested, they can get some really good background on the large-scale innovation projects that we funded and supported. They can learn a little bit more about what it is that we're doing. And again, happy to talk to anyone who might want to learn a little more.